Put to shame. All righty then. So, we are just a couple behind. I guess we'll just start off with this again, right? The questions that we continue to ask ourselves, not just for this study, but just in general of reading anything that Paul is associated with, right? Is he preaching another gospel? Is he preaching a different God or a different Elohim? Is he preaching against obedience? Is he an apostle or is Paul a false teacher? Right? These are questions that we must ask ourselves. These are questions that we must come to an understanding for ourselves and not just right. If I tell you that this medicine can heal cancer, well, you're not going to believe me. But if you apply it to yourself, if you had cancer, or you applied it to another and you watched cancer go away, well, then that seeing would then start to bolster a belief in the words. So when we read the writings of Paul, they might feel a certain way to us, but when we apply this logic and this reasoning to our mind and our body and our actions and our household and our job and our interaction with others, well, then we can start to see the blessing and we can see the fruits of what we're doing. And then that will give us confidence that we are going on the right path, that following him and his way is the truth, and that it is just a better lifestyle in all, right? A lot of people a lot of people look at it and go, I don't know how I could keep the Sabbath. I don't know how I could change my diet. I don't know how I could honor this. I don't know how I could tell my parents or my husband or wife or my loved one or my children. I don't know how I can explain to them that we're not going to be celebrating these holidays. It seems difficult, but the more we do it, the better we feel day in, day out. And then eventually we just reach a day where it's like, I don't even understand how I could go back to that, right? Eat like people on a bad diet, right? And they eating terrible, and then all of a sudden they're like, I can't move, I ache, I don't sleep good. And then they start to get a better diet and like, man, I just feel better throughout the day. Then they go back and they cheat on that diet, and then they're like, wow, I feel it. This is insane. I never thought eating this food that I ate for so long would make me feel like this, but it does, right? Hopefully, you don't have to go back away from the Father, right, back into the world and go, wow, I actually really do need you. My life was so much better when you were the center. So when we take Paul's words and we put them into our life and we take the words of the Master, the Messiah, and we apply them to ourselves, we start to see a change in us. Others see a change in us. And regardless of what the world says, that is a change for the better, right? Outside looking in, no one understands. Inside looking out, you don't understand how they can't understand, right? You're like, how could you not see this? It's right here. But that's because you're inside looking out. All right. So we left off with the end of First Thessalonians chapter 4. Um, we talked about Yeshua returning and the dead rising in the Messiah first, and then the living who are left over will be caught up away together with the dead and the Master in the air. And then we will always be with Yeshua the Master from that point. Remember, right, we're not going to get into that because that is just a whole nother study in itself. But I want you to underline and I want you to highlight and mark up verse 18 because there's a lot of things that we can say to one another that we go, oh man, you know what? You're right. You're right. You know, you said that, and I got in my mindset. Paul tells us, so then, encourage one another with these words, right? So when we're looking at this, just think back on whether you had a big upbringing in the church, or whether you are very new to this, or whether you were in a completely different religion, right? I want you to just think, if you were in a messianic based belief, right? Christianity, Catholicism, Protestant, um, Mormonism, Jehovah's Witness, right? Any style of Yeshua the Messiah, or Jesus Christ, whatever they call him, is the Messiah, the Son of the Most High, and that he was not just a normal man, that he was, in fact, the Son of the Father. Any of those religions, I want you to just ask yourself, at any point in time in that religion, were these letters, First and Second Thessalonians, were these letters ever read to you? Think about that. How could we encourage one another on these words if me and you have never read these words? Right? That's when people are like, you go down to the South, and like, you know what they say, and then they say some weird saying, and you're like, I don't even any what? That doesn't make any sense. I don't even know what you're talking about, right? Well, one of you have heard it, and to one of you it makes sense, but to the other who's never read this or had this read into them, it wouldn't make sense. This is the importance of reading scripture for yourself, right? And this is also the importance of having scripture read to you. Um, Reading is very important. I think having read to you or listening to it, whether it's somebody reading it to you like an audio book or something like that, it is very, very important, because we will all emphasize on certain words or phrases or chapters or verses based on us in our life, and things you might not have ever, like, well, I guess I never read it like that, or I never thought about it like that. But Paul tells us, so then encourage one another in these words. Well, if I've never read these words and you never read these words, how am I supposed to encourage you? And how are you supposed to gain encouragement from these words that you've never heard? All right. There's a shift in Paul's writings, and that shift uh, towards right now, which was a good stopping point. The end of this letter and the second letter to the Thessalonians, there's a shift, and we start to see Paul recognize, speak of, and emphasize on the great day of Yahweh, right? This is the great and terrible day of the Lord that we see in the prophets. Um, this is the day upon the Father's wrath goes out upon the earth that we read in Revelation. This is the day Yeshua speaks of, when all judgment upon the earth comes to completion. This is a very important day. And this can kind of give you a mindset of where the people of Thessalonica is, right? Where their mindset is. They are so hyper focused on the end. And I want you to really ask yourself, if we sit down and I go, guys, this is the best movie you've ever seen. It's going to take us 3 months to get through, because it's a 14-part movie and it's 3.5 hours each part. And we're going to have to watch it every 4 days. You're going to watch it, and then it's got to take 4 more days before we can watch the next part. And you're sitting there like, I can't wait for the end. I can't wait for the end. I promise you, if your attention, your focus is on the end, you're going to miss everything in between. You might pick up on stuff, you might catch stuff, but if I'm so hyper focused on when does this end, when does this end, when does this end, I will never enjoy it in the moment, and I will skate past it and just speed through it in order to get to the end. We had somebody come over, and we had discussed, and this has been a discussion I had with many people, and it deals with salvation. If you're focused and you're worried about your salvation, it's probably look in the mirror and ask yourself what your priority is. Because if your priority is just to be saved, then does that come with love? If my priority is just to be married, I can go find any woman and get married. And then I'm married. If my priority is to have a woman I want to spend the rest of my life with and love and have love me and enjoy my children and be proud of my marriage, well, then that takes time and that takes effort. And then I'm not looking for a wife, I'm looking for the wife for me. But I'm living the life of the husband, right? Of the man that I want that woman to be attracted to. So if I'm looking for, right, and this is, I think, why marriage is such an easy and biblically backed analogy, right? I'm the husband, right? Be the husband or be the wife that you want to attract the husband or wife that you want, right? So I'm not going out and partying and drinking at the bars because I don't want a wife that goes out and does that stuff. I'm at the house, I'm being responsible financially, and with this and with that, I take care of myself because I want this. If we're doing those things, then those things will be attracted to us. If I make the Father the priority, then someone will come along where their priority is also the Father. Just, I know it's a rant, whatever, sorry, I'm over it. But pay attention to how Paul's letters shift, right? Okay, chapter 5. Now, brothers, as to the times and the seasons, you do not need to be written to. For you yourselves know very well that the day of Yahweh comes as a thief in the night. For when they say peace and safety, then suddenly destruction comes upon them, as labor pains upon a pregnant woman, and they will not escape. So, why would Paul bring this up? Obviously, right? He says they were probably asking about times. When is the day of Yahweh? When is the Messiah returning? When is the Messiah returning? When is he going to come get us? And that's most likely why, I'm assuming, but I would say that's probably why Paul addresses this right now. Don't worry about the times and the seasons. If you live the life of one who trusts in the Messiah, then when the day comes, your trust will be proved and you'll be good. Whether that's in a week, in a month, in a day, in a year, it doesn't matter because you know where your trust is and he knows where your trust is. But if we're focused, I can only trust for 29 days. And after 29 days, I just don't know if I can trust anymore. Well, are you really trusting? But he says, right, something that we're going to go into a book that you're probably not going to be able to flip to, but you can write it down here. Right? This is a great book. And I believe, without a doubt, this is inspired text. And this is the book of 2nd Esdras, right? So in our Bibles, we see 1st and 2nd Ezra. Well, there is also a 3rd and a 4th Ezra, right? And this is the book of 2nd Esdras or 4th Ezra, however you want to look at it. And this is chapter 16. And I want you to think about exactly what Paul says. He says, then sudden destruction comes upon them as labor pains upon a pregnant woman, that they will not escape. Now, mind you, the book of Revelation also talks about like a pregnant woman, and some other prophets talk about this labor pains. But a lot of the conversation of labor pains is after this has been written. So that means Paul would have had, right, being someone who's raised in all of the word, right? I believe Paul would have read this out of 2nd Esdras and maybe been referencing it. He says, and this is 36, listen now to these things and understand them, you who are servants of Yahweh. This is the word of Yahweh. Receive it and do not disbelieve what Yahweh says. The Calamites draw near and are not delayed, just as a pregnant woman in the 9th month, when the time of her delivery draws near, has great pains around her womb for 2 or 3 hours beforehand. But when the child comes forth from the womb, there will not be a moment's delay. So the calamities will not delay in coming upon the earth, and the world will groan, and the pains will cease on every side. What is Paul saying? Then suddenly destruction comes upon. For then they say peace and safety. Then suddenly, immediately, destruction comes upon them as the labor pains on a pregnant woman, and they will not escape. 4. But you, brothers, are not in darkness, so that this day, what day? The day of Yahweh, shouldn't overtake you as a thief. For you are all sons of light and sons of the day. We are not of the night nor of darkness. So then, we should not sleep as others do, but we should watch and be sober. For those who are asleep sleep at night, and those who get drunk are drunk at night. But we who are of the day should be sober, putting on the breastplate of belief and love, and the helmet, the expectation of deliverance. Now, Paul's not telling us we should never sleep, right? That's not what's being said. But just like I made with the analogy, right? Like my grandpa used to say, nothing good happens after the sun sets, right? When the sun goes down, nothing good happens, right? So this is the reference in which Paul's saying, he's not saying we're not allowed to sleep, and he's not saying we're not allowed to drink. He uses the words, those who get drunk are drunk at night. Drunk. Remember, Sirach tells us that wine was made for men to be merry, but too much wine makes you a drunkard, and that is not okay. Nothing wrong with having a drink, a glass of wine, a beer, whatever, right? But he tells us to put on over our heart, think about it, our breastplate, right? That's right, directly over our heart, belief and love. And then as a helmet on our head, on our mind, right? And in front of our eyes, our forehead, the expectation of deliverance. 9, because Elohim did not appoint us to wrath, but to obtain deliverance through our Master, Yeshua Messiah. So, I'm going to say that again, and if you want to highlight this, because this is because Elohim did not appoint us to wrath, but to obtain deliverance through our Master, Yeshua Messiah. So the whole, oh, God's like a little child with a magnifying glass just burning us and we're just ants upon the earth. He did not appoint us to wrath. He doesn't want wrath for us. He wants us to obtain deliverance through his son, Yeshua Messiah. That's what the Father wants. So all these people are like, oh, he just wants me to be sad, or he must be punishing me. No. He wants you to be delivered through his son. That is what he wants. And we know that because his son, who died for us, so that we, whether awake or asleep, will live together with him. Now, where do we think that Paul understands this idea that he didn't just create us for destruction, right? He didn't form us from the womb to go straight into the kiln to burn up. That's not why he made us. And if we just stay in the Gospels, we disconnect from the Father. Look, guys, look how much Paul has referenced the Father. He's referenced Yeshua a lot, but look at how much Paul has referenced the Father. Think of how disconnected you'll be if you never go back into the Old Testament to find out who the Father is. We only know in the Gospels, we only know of the Father because Yeshua, the disciples, and the apostles. But that's all a second hand, right? It's like a fourth or fifth hand removed. Go back to the Old Testament and read about the Father and see his love for his people. So now we'll go back. Oh, I'm sorry, we'll go forward and then we'll go going back. So think about this. 2 Timothy chapter 2, he says, first of all, then I urge that petitions, prayers, intercessions, and thanksgiving be made for all men, for kings and all those who are in authority, in order that we lead a calm and peaceable life in all reverence and seriousness. For this is good and acceptable before Elohim our Savior, who desires all men to be saved and to come to the knowledge of the truth. Right? The Father desires all men to be saved. All men. Right? Now let's jump. We did a study on First and Second Peter a while ago, but now let's go back to Second Peter. You should probably have some of this highlighted or most of it. He says, "This is now, beloved ones, the second letter in which I write to you, in which I stir up your sincere mind to remember the words previously spoken by the set apart prophets." The set apart prophets, not the emissaries and not the disciples. Peter's specifically saying the words spoken of by the prophets and the command of our master and savior spoken by your emissaries. There's the words of the disciples and the emissaries. Knowing this first, that mockers will come in the last days with mocking, walking according to their own lusts, and saying, where is this promise of his coming? For since the fathers fell asleep, all continues as from the beginning of creation. Remember how Paul is ending that letter. He says, brothers, I do not worry about times and seasons and days, for the day of Yahweh will be like a thief in the night. And if you're right in his eyes, it doesn't matter when it comes, because you'll be chosen, you'll be saved, you'll be good. But here, as Peter's starting his second letter, he's like, there's these people that are saying, where's this promise at? Everything is just as it was the day before, just as the day before, just as the day before. Where is this? From the beginning of creation. And they're losing hope and faith. They're losing belief. Verse 5, for they choose to have this hidden from them, that the heavens were of old, and the earth standing out of water, and in the water. Think about what that means, standing out of water and in the water. How could that be? By the word of Elohim, through which the world at that time was destroyed, being flooded with water. And the present heavens and the earth are treasured up by the same word, being kept for fire, to the day of judgment and destruction of wicked men. There's that great and terrible day of Yah. But beloved ones, let not this one matter be hidden from you, that with Yahweh 1 day is as 1,000 years, and 1,000 years is 1 day. Don't take that out of context, okay? And pay attention to what Peter's saying. All right, he's talking about how the Father, his concept of time is vastly different from ours. If I look forward 10 years, it's very far away. If I look back 10 years, I'm like, holy crap, where is the time gone? So does that mean that 10 years is as a day and 1 day is as 10 years? No. But if the Father, having lived through it, has seen it and can recollect it, his concept of time is different than ours. But I promise you, if you look back on a memory and you go, that was 9 years ago? It feels like a month ago. That's insane how time has just flown by. But I bet you those 9 years didn't feel like that. 9. Yahweh is not slow in regard to the promise, as some count slowness, but is patient towards us, not wishing that any of you should perish, but that all should come to repentance. So here's Peter backing up what Paul wrote to the Thessalonians, what he wrote to Timothy. He's backing it up, that Yahweh wants all men to be saved and all men and women to come to repentance, that none perish. And this is why it's taking so long, right? Imagine when you were like in school and it's like, hey, nobody can speak until everybody's done with the test. And then 95% of the classroom's done and there's two or three and you're like, oh, can you guys just hurry up? I just want to talk to my friends, right? And the teacher's like, have patience. They'll get done. They still have time. You have 2 hours. We still have 18 minutes left. They have time. Slow down. And you're like, I've been done 30 minutes just sitting. We don't want to be that person. We don't want to rush this, right? We need as much patience and allowance and buffer room from the Father as we can get. And that's what Peter's telling them. Guys, just have out, slow down, right? Which, sorry, I didn't highlight this, but he says, for the day of Yahweh, let me do this really quick. So the day of Yahweh, right there, that just turned purple. The day of Yahweh will come as a thief in the night, in which the heavens will pass away with great noise, and the elements will melt with intense heat, and the earth and the works that are in it will be burned up. Sounds like these two guys are kind of on the same page, right? 11. Seeing all these are to be destroyed in this way, what kind of people ought you to be in the set apart behavior and reverence? Looking for and hastening toward the coming of the day of Elohim, the day of Yahweh, the great and terrible day of wrath, through which the heavens will be destroyed, being set on fire, and the elements will melt with intense heat. But according to his promise, we wait for a renewed heaven and a renewed earth in which righteousness dwells. So then, beloved ones, looking forward to this, do your utmost to be found in by him in peace, spotless and blameless. So, what is Peter telling us here? What is Peter telling us here? Think about it. Does it sound just like what Paul is telling us? That we need to pay attention to how we are and what we're doing, how we are conducting ourselves, how we're acting, where our mindset is. Said right here in yellow, right? Reckon the patience of our master as deliverance. So also our beloved brother Paul, Shaul, wrote to you according to the wisdom given to him, as also in all his letters, speaking in them concerning these matters. What matters? The matters above, right? The matters we just talked about, which Paul just talked to the Thessalonians about, in which some are hard to understand, which those who are untaught and unstable twist to their own destruction, as they do also the other scriptures. You then, beloved ones, being forewarned, watch, lest you fall from your own steadfastness, being led away with the delusion of the lawless. If you don't have this highlighted, if you don't have 15 to 17 highlighted, I suggest you highlight it. He said, they are going to take Paul's letters and all the other scriptures, and they are going to twist them because they are untaught, unstable, and unlearned, and they're twisting them to their own destruction. And if you, being warned, do not watch out, you too can be led away with the delusion of the what? Lawless. What is lawless? What is lawless? Think about that. There's a lawless one that's spoken of in Revelation. Do you want to be paired up with that guy? The man of lawlessness? right? With the delusion. With the delusion. Remember that word, delusion of lawlessness. They've, how many people sit here and say, my trust is in the Messiah, and they turn around and are just completely wool pulled over the eyes in full delusion that they're able to do whatever they want to do and they just got to ask for forgiveness later. Right? But he says, don't be led away, 18, but grow in the favor and knowledge of our Master and Savior, Yeshua Messiah. To him be the esteem both now and to a day that abides. Amen. So Peter's also sounding a lot like what Paul is saying, right? Back to 1 Thessalonians. And remember the mindset that Peter's in. Guys, stop worrying about when the day of Yahweh is coming. We're not living for the end. We're living for today. We're living for right now. If you live for tomorrow and you live for the next day, that's where your worries will be, and you will slip up today. You will get caught today. 11, therefore encourage one another and build up one another, as indeed you do. But brothers, we beg you to know those who labor among you and are over you in the master and admonish you, and to hold them in the highest regard and love because of their work. Be at peace among yourselves. And we appeal to you, brothers, warn those who are disorderly. I'm sorry. Get your highlighter out one more time. We appeal to you, brothers, warn those who are disorderly. Encourage the faint-hearted. Uphold the weak. Be patient with all. Well, we're not supposed to judge each other. We're not supposed to, let's remove that stick from our eyes before we go to the twig of our brother. Well, that's fine. But if in the process of you pulling the stick out of your eye, you notice that your friend standing next to you got one in his too, you should probably let him know there's a stick in his eye. Oh man, it must have came off of my sin. My stick must have broke off and that little branch went into your eye. You got some in there too. You don't get it out, it could make it worse. Paul's telling us we should warn those who are disorderly. There's nothing wrong with in patience and in love correcting our brothers and sisters when it comes to the walk of our master. There's nothing wrong with that. 15, see that no one renders evil for evil to anyone, but always pursue what is good both for you yourselves and for all. In the Torah, right, it says that if you are to, you're not allowed to lend money with usury, right? You're not allowed to give a loan. You can't collect interest on a loan. You're not supposed to. It says you're not allowed to do that for your brothers, right? But for one of the nations, you can collect usury from them, okay? And what's funny is David sings a psalm and he talks about this. And he says that the righteous man is one who lends money without usury to all. Because think about this. Acts 15 has nothing to do with food. It has to do with how believers are treating other believers regardless of their upbringing. Black, white, Mexican, Chinese, Asian, mixed, doesn't matter. Christian, Catholic, Buddhist, monk, Muslim, doesn't matter. If you've come to the master, me and you are brother, me and you are brother and sister, me and you. We are family. Doesn't matter who our family was beforehand. Remember, Yeshua says you have to die of your former self. Well, if you die of your former self, you no longer are what you were, and now you are made new. And in this made new, me and you are brothers. You're my sister in the Messiah. Remember, Yeshua he's standing there, and they come to him and say, Master, Master, your mother and brothers are calling you. And he looks and says, who are my mother, who is my brother, and who are my sister? Those that do the will of my Father. That is my mother, that is my brother, and that is my sister, right? That's the words of the Master. So David understood that. And we too. Paul's saying, guys, we shouldn't just pursue what's good for us. We should be pursuing what's good for all. 16, rejoice always, pray without ceasing, in all circumstances. That means good and bad. Give thanks, for this is the desire of Elohim and the Master Yeshua for you. A half glass full, a half full glass. There's two ways of looking at it, right? Half full or half empty. If I always have the mindset of I didn't get enough, I will never have enough. If I always have the mindset of I only got half what I need, I will never have enough. If I look at it and go, man, all I needed was half a glass, I'm glad that I got what I needed. Remember, Yeshua's prayer, he says, give us this bread, right? Our daily bread. He doesn't say, give us an abundance, storehouses of grain. He says, give us today what we need. Well, maybe all we need is half a glass. But he'll always guarantee half a glass is always there for us at all times. So we give thanks in all circumstances, even if they seem not good. Right? And this goes directly into verse 19. Do not quench the spirit. We start to throw doubt, and we start to throw worry, and we start to hurt ourselves in the soul, emotionally and mentally. We injure ourselves. Oh man, did I do something wrong? Maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe he's not real. Oh man, I'm so thirsty, and I got this cup. I definitely know, like, I looked at the CDC guidelines, and they're telling me I need this many ounces of water a day because I'm this much weight and I'm this age, and I don't have this many. And we're quenching out the Ruach. I mean, at some point in time, guys, at a point in time, a man got swallowed, thrown into the ocean, swallowed by a great fish, and then spent 3 days in its belly and was spit out on the shore of the town in which he needed to go speak to. Right? That in itself should be, all right, he's gonna take care of me, and I'm gonna get what I need when I need it, and I'm not gonna worry. Right? But if we quench the spirit, if we doubt the spirit, what is the spirit? Truth. So can you say, do not quench the truth? Right? I mean, can that not be interchangeable? Right? Because the spirit he's talking about is the Ruach HaKodesh, the spirit of truth, the comforter. 20, do not despise prophecies. Prove them all. Hold fast to what is good. Keep back from every form of wickedness. Circle wickedness, make a line, and I want you to go back and look at that word. Go to the Hebrew, go to the Greek, go to the Aramaic, go on Bible Hub, right? Look up that root word of wickedness and see what that ties into. Paul's telling us keep back from every form of wickedness. 23. And the Elohim of peace himself, the Father, will set you apart completely. And your entire spirit and being and body be preserved blameless. Well, that kind of sounds like what Peter was saying, right? At the coming of our Master Yeshua Messiah. He who calls you is trustworthy. That's very important. Underline this. He who calls you is trustworthy, who also will do it. Brothers, pray for us. Greet all the brothers with a set apart kiss. I charge you by the Master that this letter be read to all set apart brothers. I charge you by the Master that this letter be read to all the set apart brothers. Paul is commanding, right? He's charging through Yeshua Messiah that this letter is read to all believers. How many times has this been read to you? I'm going to argue never. This has never been read to you in your life. You might have read it. You might have heard people read portions of it. But this letter in its entirety, like we have done, has never been read to you. And if it has, amazing. This should be a no-brainer recap. But if it hasn't, this is on what we encourage one another. How can we encourage one another if we've never had this read or read to us? He says, the favor of our Master Yeshua Messiah be with you. Amen. So, if we look at other religions and other beliefs, okay? And we look at all of the kind of main characters, right? The main people in these beliefs. Do yourself a favor and do a little side study. I want you to go and see how many of these main characters were raised from the dead and proved through witnesses. Historical, scriptural, third-party accounts. Think about that. The Messiah was alive and recorded, died, recorded, and was seen. I think there's like 400 witnesses throughout scripture and other books that recognize the vision, the sight, the witness of Yeshua after his death. There is no other prophet, there is no other religion, there's no other belief that can say that. So what does that do? Why am I bringing that up? Because Paul says in verse 24, he who calls you is trustworthy and will do it. Will do what? Return. For what? His Father's people. To do what with them? Bring them to everlasting life into his Father's house. That's what we are making our trust and our belief in Yeshua Messiah. And we know he's trustworthy, and we have references and texts outside of the scriptures that account to this. If I go up to somebody and say, hey, you know how to build a house? And they go, yes, I do. You go, okay, well, do you have any references that I could go speak to, or any work that I can go inspect to see if your word is trustworthy? And then 400 people come and show you and tell you the stories about his trustworthiness. You're going to go right back to the guy and be like, you have the job. I don't even need to worry about coming back to check on you. Because of all of these accounts I've heard of you, like that, you're trustworthy. Right? So there's no other main character in any other religion that has the third-party account and witness and historical and scriptural reference of being dead and being raised. Think about that. That's a pretty tall order to say that you were dead and have returned. Because that then puts trust that you will return again. Right? He told Pilate, the Father has given me, the Father has given you only what authority he is allowed, right? Pilate says, I have the authority to take your life. And he's like, well, not really, right? Right? You're not really. You might have the steering wheel, but I'm telling you where you're supposed to turn, how fast you're supposed to go. So, yeah, you're driving, but are you really driving? So, we read it, but back to 2 Peter 3, right? Verse 14, he says, so then, beloved ones, looking forward to this. To what? Looking forward to the return of our Master. Do your utmost to be found by him, the Father, in peace, spotless, and blameless. Psalm 18. For I have guarded the ways of Yahweh and have not acted wrongly against my Elohim. For all his right rulings are before me, and I did not turn from his Torah, from his law. And I am perfect before him, and I guard myself from my crookedness. Circle that. Maybe that goes back to wickedness. And Yahweh repays me according to my righteousness, according to the cleanliness of my hands before his eyes. Now we know that we can put on the righteousness of Yeshua if we accept his blood, if we put our trust in him, if we put our belief and our hope in him. He has a pretty big coat of righteousness, and he can have a lot of people under there. And that is a huge aid to us because we can don the righteousness of our Master Yeshua Messiah if our trust is in him, right? We don't know how to get in that front door. We're looking, knowing all the people in there. No one knows us. And here comes Yeshua. Oh, he's with me. Okay, come on in, sir. Come on in, ma'am. Have a good time. That's the covering Yeshua has for us. David understood that. Peter understood that. Paul understood that. He wrote to many people about it. David sings many times about this. All right, that wraps up First Thessalonians. So we're gonna jump into Second Thessalonians now. And I want you to kind of think about like, whom do you serve? Remember, a very long time ago in real life, there was a man, Yahushua, that's Hebrew, Joshua, as we know him. He stood on the bank and said to the people, today you must choose whether you serve the Elohim of our fathers that pulled us from the hand of the Egyptians, that got us out of bondage and slavery, that has led us through the wilderness, that has fed us and kept us, that Elohim, or are you going to go serve the gods of the nations? Right? We can't serve two masters. We can't serve two gods. So this day, choose whom you shall serve. And I want you to keep that in mind as we read through Paul's second letter to Thessalonica. And once again, let's look at how Paul opens his letters, right? Last time I kind of highlighted and separated. This time you can run it. He says, again, Paul and Silas and Timothy. So it's not just Paul's letter. Silas and Timothy are in agreement with this and probably contributed a portion to this. Remember, Timothy was sent over to see them and returns back to Paul with good news about him. says, to the assembly of the Thessalonians, and Elohim our Father and the Master Yeshua Messiah. The Father first, the Son, right? Paul understands that there is a huge connection to the Father in all of this. And modern Christianity has kind of just gone away from that. Right? To favor to you and peace from Elohim our Father and the Master Yeshua Messiah. We ought to give thanks to Elohim always for you, brothers, as it is proper, because your belief grows exceedingly. And the love every one of you has for each other is increasing, so that we ourselves boast of you among the assemblies of Elohim for your endurance and your belief in all your persecutions and afflictions which you are bearing, clear evidence of the righteous judgment of Elohim, in order for you to be counted worthy of the reign of Elohim, for which you also suffer. Since Elohim will rightly repay with affliction those who afflict, and give you who are afflicted the rest with us, the Master Yeshua Messiah is revealed from heaven with his mighty messengers. So Paul, once again, right, in Paul's second letter to Thessalonians, he's saying, guys, you're increasing love, you're increasing growth, you're increasing belief, your endurance in the belief through all your persecutions and all the stuff you're going through. It's clear evidence of the righteous judgment of the Father. In order for you to be counted worthy of the reign of Elohim. Paul's reaching out to a bunch of Gentiles saying, your guys' belief, your actions, your love for one another, all this, that, and the other, this is inspiring all of us, and it is proof, right? Not just of the judgment of the Father, but it's proof that the Ruach HaKodesh has gone out to all. It's true that the Father wants all men to be saved. And he's saying, you will get the rest, just like we, when we are with the Master, when he is revealed from the heavens. From the heavens, right? From heaven with his mighty messengers. In flaming fire, taking vengeance on those who do not know Elohim, and on those who do not obey the good news of our Master Yeshua Messiah, who will be punished with everlasting destruction from the presence of the Master and from the esteem of his strength, when he comes to be esteemed in his set apart ones, and to be admired among all those that believe in that day. Paul is going back to the great and terrible day of Yah, when Yeshua returns and the sky rolls back like a scroll and the clouds depart, and he is seen with myriads, tens and thousands and thousands and thousands, and myriads of his angels, of his messengers, warriors behind him, coming to gather up his Father's people in order to keep them and set them apart, just as they are set apart from that great and terrible day, the day of destruction. Because our witness to you was believed. 11. To this end, we always pray for you that our Elohim would count you worthy of this calling and complete the good pleasure of goodness and the work of belief with power, so that the name of our Master Yeshua Messiah is esteemed in you, and you in him, according to the favor of our Elohim and the Master Yeshua Messiah. So, Paul is starting off this letter in a similar fashion to how he ended his first letter. And it goes back to this great and terrible day, this big day of judgment, this day in which fire will cleanse the earth, and all those will be either given to everlasting life or everlasting punishment. But that those who are esteemed via the name of Yeshua Messiah, that trust in it, and his name is esteemed in them, then there will be favor upon you and you don't have to worry about this. So let's go back to the book of Isaiah so we can start to kind of understand what it is in this day. So we'll be in Isaiah chapter 34. He says, "Draw near, you nations, and listen, you princes. Let the earth hear, and they that are in it, the world, and the people that are therein. For the wrath of Yahweh is upon all nations, and his anger upon the number of them, to destroy them, and to give them up to slaughter. And their slain will be cast forth, and their corpses, and their ill savor, right, their stench, will come up, and the mountains will be made wet with their blood, and all the powers of the heavens will melt." Kind of sounds like what Peter just said, right? When he said, so everything will melt, right? All these things will melt. The heavens will melt, and the sky will be rolled up like a scroll, and the stars will fall like leaves from a vine, and as the leaves fall from a fig tree. Remember that. My sword has been made drunk in heaven. Behold, it will come down upon Edom, and with judgment upon the people doomed to destruction. The sword of Yahweh is filled with blood. It is gluttoned with fat, with the blood of goats and lambs, and with the fat of goats and rams. For Yahweh has a sacrifice in Bozor, and a great slaughter in Edom. And the mighty ones will fall with them, and the rams and the bulls, and the land will be soaked with blood, and will be filled with their fat. For it is the day of judgment of Yahweh, and the year of the recompense in Sion in judgment. And her valleys will be turned into pitch, and her land into sulfur. And the land will be as pitch, burning night and day, and it will never be quenched. And her smoke will go up, and it will be made desolate throughout their generations. And for a long time, birds and hedgehogs and ibises and ravens will dwell in it, and the measuring line of desolation will be cast over it, and satyrs, circle that and Google that, will dwell in it. Her princes will be no more, and her kings and her great men will be destroyed. Revelation 6. And the stars of the heavens fell to the earth, as a fig tree drops its unripe figs, being shaken by a strong wind. And the heaven departed like a scroll being rolled up, and every mountain and island moved from its place. What did Isaiah say? The sky will be rolled like a scroll, and the stars will fall like leaves from vine, as in the leaves fall from a fig tree. And the stars of heaven fell to the earth like a fig tree drops unripe figs being shaken by a strong wind. And the heaven departed like a scroll being rolled up, and every mountain and island was moved out of its place. And the kings of the earth, and the great ones, and the rich ones, and the commanders, and the mighty men, and every slave and every free one, hid themselves in a cave and in the rocks of the mountains, and said unto the mountains and rocks, Fall upon us, and hide us from the face of him sitting on the throne. Pay attention, it's two. From the face of him, the Father, sitting on his throne, and from the wrath of the Lamb. Because the great day of his wrath, the great day of Yahweh, has come, and who is able to stand? Now jump forward to 14. He says, verse 6, and I saw another messenger flying in mid-heaven, holding the everlasting good news, everlasting life, Yeshua the Messiah, to announce to those dwelling upon the earth, even to every nation and tribe and tongue and people, saying with a loud voice, fear Elohim and give esteem to him, because the hour of his judgment has come, and worship him who made the heaven and the earth, the sea, and fountains of water. And another messenger followed, saying, Babel is fallen, that great city, because she had made all nations drink of the vine of the wrath of her whoring. And a third messenger followed them, saying with a loud voice, if anyone worships the beast in his image and receives his mark upon their forehead or upon their hand, he also will drink of the vine of the wrath of Elohim, which is poured out and undiluted into the cup of his wrath. And he will be tortured with fire and sulfur before the set apart messengers and before the Lamb. And the smoke of their torture goes up forever and ever. And they have no rest day or night, those worshiping the beast in his image. Also, if anyone receives the mark of his name. What did Isaiah say? He said, and their valleys will be turned into pitch, and their land to sulfur. And the land will be as pitch, burning night and day. It will never be quenched, and her smoke will go up, and it will be made desolate throughout all their generations. 13 or 10, at the end of 10, he says, they'll be tortured with fire and sulfur before the set apart message before the Lamb, and the smoke of their torture goes up forever and ever, and they have no rest day or night. Those worshiping the beast in his image, anyone with the mark of his name. Here is the endurance. Remember, Paul says, I pray for your endurance. Peter says, the endurance of the set apart ones. Here again, here's the endurance of the set apart ones. So who are the ones not being burned with fire and sulfur? Here are the ones not taking the beast's mark. I'm not going to get into what the beast's mark is, right? If you want to say it's a tattoo or a vaccine or a microchip, or guys, you're worrying about, you're sitting here talking about, man, in third grade, I just learned math. I should probably start preparing for advanced trigonometry. What? That's ridiculous. How about let's just worry about 2 plus 2 and 8 plus 8 and 20 plus 20. Let's do that, and we'll get there. Right? Peter warns them. Paul warns them. Right? Whatever the mark of the beast is, you'll know. If your heart is in the right place, your trust is in the right place, you will be warned. You will know. I promise you, it will be revealed unto you what the mark actually is when the mark comes. I promise you, if your trust is in the Messiah, when the mark is released upon the earth, you will know what the mark is, and you will make a choice on who you will bow to. He says, here's the endurance of the set apart ones. Here are those. So there's two categories of people. Those with the mark and those that are not. Set apart. Set apart from what? The world. Guarding the commands of Elohim and the belief of Yeshua Messiah. 14:12 should be highlighted. If it's not, it should be highlighted. And I believe 12:17. Those two should be highlighted in the book of Revelation. Here's the endurance of the set apart ones who are guarding the commands of the Father and have the faith and testimony, the belief of Yeshua Messiah. And I heard a voice, 13, and I heard a voice out of heaven saying unto me, write, blessed are the dead who die in the Master from now on. Yes, says the Spirit, in order that they rest from their labors and their works follow with them. And I looked and I saw a white cloud. And sitting on the cloud was the one like the son of Adam, having on his head a golden crown, and in his hand a sharp sickle for the grape harvest. If we worry about being something or being someone, then all we will worry about is are others looking at us like we are that thing or that person. If we just be that person, then there is no room. We're not leaving any room for doubt. If I tell you I'm a trustworthy person, I don't go around asking a lot of people if I'm a trustworthy person so that you can gain confidence in my trustworthiness. I just do what I say I'm going to do, and then I am trustworthy. I am trustworthy. And I no longer need to say I am trustworthy because I am trustworthy and you know it. If we claim to be the remnant of the Most High, if we claim to trust in the Master, then we just trust in the Master. We don't need to worry about others. All right, chapter 2. As the coming of our Master Yeshua Messiah and our gathering together to him, we ask you, brothers, not to become easily unsettled in mind or troubled, either by spirit or by word or by letter, as if from us, as if the day of Yahweh has come. The same struggle that Paul deals with is the same struggle we deal with today in the modern church. What's the end times? What's the end times? You know how many people we saw when the COVID vaccine came out that went all over the internet and said, the COVID vaccine is the mark of the beast, and if you get this is the Antichrist coming. They were all wrong. Why would we listen to anything that any of those people spoke of? They were all wrong. And they put fear and they were troubling and unsettling the mind of all of those. Now, was the COVID vaccine a good thing? No, I don't think you should get it. But was that the mark of the beast? Absolutely not. Something that will ultimately separate you from the Most High versus something that's not good for you, those are two vastly different categories of stuff. All of those people, they unsettled and troubled the spirit and the mind of hundreds of millions of people throughout the earth. And they were wrong. Why even turn them on? Paul tells us, get those people out from you. And we're going to read it more. Verse 3, let no one deceive you in any way, because the falling away is to come first. And the man of lawlessness isn't to be revealed, the son of destruction, perdition, who opposes and exalts himself above all that is called Elohim, or that is worship, and that he sits as the Father in the dwelling place of the Father, showing himself that he is. Just like Paul's telling Thessalonians, guys, stuff has to happen. Stuff has to happen. There's an order of events that has to occur. Stop jumping to conclusions. Matthew 6. Matthew 6. Now, all the stuff that I've been saying, right? I'm not just saying it because it's a good idea or here's I read it in a self-help book. No, I read it from the words of the Master. I read it from Yeshua himself. Accounted and recorded by Matthew in chapter 6, verse 24. It says, this is Yeshua. No one is able to serve two masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or else he will cleave unto one and despise the other. You are not able to serve Elohim and Mammon. That word is money or wealth or riches, right? I just changed it to money, right? Serve Elohim and money because that's the most common. Because of this, I say to you, do not worry about your life, what you will eat or drink, or about your body and what you will put in it or put on. It is not life more than food, and the body more than clothing. Look at the birds of the heaven, for they neither sow nor reap, nor gather into storehouses, yet your Father feeds them. Are you not worth more than they? And which of you, by worrying, is able to add 1 cubit to his life's span. So why do you worry about clothing? Note well the lilies of the field, how they grow. They neither toil nor spin. And I say to you that even Solomon in all his esteem was not dressed like one of these. But if Elohim so clothes the grass of the field, which exists today, and tomorrow is thrown into the furnace, how much more you, O you of little belief? The birds are not out there like, hey guys, we got to get our crops ready for this year. There's a big drought. No, they just trust and rely that there will be food. The grass and the lilies grow, regardless if there's a huge fire. We just seen that. Nebraska and Kansas are on fire, and thousands and hundreds of thousands of acres burned. You know what's going to happen next year? There's going to be grass that grows up in its place. I would love to see the man that went and planted that grass. He didn't. The Father knows it's needed and will provide. And that's exactly what Yeshua says. When it's all quenched up and thrown away, what about the next day? Today it's here, tomorrow it's burned up. It's going to come back because the Father knows. 31, do not worry then, saying, what shall we eat, or what shall we drink, or what shall we wear? For all these the Gentiles seek for. Those not of the Father seek for these things. And your Father knows that you need all of these. So, where should our mindset be? Highlight this. But seek first the reign of Elohim and his righteousness, and all these matters will be added to you. Do not then worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will have its own worries. Each day has enough evil of itself. Remember what Peter said in chapter 3. He said, guys, if you're not paying attention now, you'll be led astray. There'll be a delusion that comes upon you. Your ear will be attracted to something that is not the truth. Things will be said unto you, and they'll make you second guess or question, or be worried, or be doubtful, or be nervous and scared. But if we seek first his kingdom, then his righteousness, we don't have to worry about this stuff. It'll be given unto us. It'll be added to us. We pay attention to today, because if we're so worried about tomorrow, we slip up today, and then tomorrow comes and we're worried about the next day and we slip up again. And before we know it, turn around and we're like, man, how did we get here? All right, back to chapter 2. Verse 5, he says, do you not remember that I told you this while I was with you? And now you know what restrains for him to be revealed in this time. Right? He tells them, there's a bunch of stuff that has to happen, guys. Stop worrying about, oh no, is it today? Guys, there's a lot of stuff that has to happen. You'll see the signs. And if your trust is in the right place, those signs will be like a neon sign in the middle of the night. Bright and hard to look at, but very clear. 7, for the secret of lawlessness is already at work, only until he who now restrains comes out of the midst. In Paul's day, he's already saying, guys, right? This isn't much long after Yeshua. And he's like, the secret of lawlessness is already at work. It's already weaving itself into the believers. It's already weaving itself into the congregations, the groups, the ecclesia, the church, if you will. He says, and then the lawless one will be revealed, whom the master will consume with the spirit of his mouth and bring to naught with the manifestation of his coming. The coming of the lawless one is according to the work of Hasatan, the adversary, with all power and signs and wonders of falsehood. Power, signs, and wonders of falsehood, and with all deceit of unrighteousness in those perishing, because they did not receive the love of the truth in order for them to be saved. A lot of times when we evaluate ourselves and we're like, man, should we really not be doing this, or should we be doing that, or should we really get rid of this or get rid of that, or should we really start adding this? That's a truth that we're gaining. And if we look at it and go, that's probably for the best, right? I'm going to give up eating pork or whatever. And you're like, oh man, but I really enjoyed so much. And there's this thing, and blah, blah. Carnitas are my favorite kind of food, or this or that. My mother made this ham thing for me. We start to feel like that truth that's been revealed is not one sent out of love from the Father and the Son, or from our brother or sister. We start to kind of feel like it's almost a burden. Oh, I got to give that. Oh, I got to give this up. And if that's our mindset, then we are looking at a half empty glass, and it will always be half empty. Because we're not receiving this cup in love. There's a delusion that's been pulled on. I'm like, oh, it's half empty. Could you not fill it up all the way? Jeez Louise, I'm kind of thirsty over here. If we're not receiving these things in love, and if we're not recognizing that these corrections of our life are from a place of love, then we'll never receive it as such. 11. And for this reason, Elohim sends them a working of delusion. There's that word. For them to believe the falsehood, in order that they all will be judged who did not believe the truth, but have delighted in unrighteousness. So, on top of them just not believing or not knowing, right? Now there's a delusion that the Father has sent upon them. All right, Ezekiel 14. I just realized what time it is, so we're going to pick it up a little bit. Ezekiel 14, he says, and there came to me men, the people of Israel, and the elders, and they sat before me. And the word of Yahweh came to me, saying, Son of man, these men have conceived their devices in their hearts, and have set before their faces the punishment of their iniquities. Will I indeed answer them? Therefore speak to them, and you will say to them, Thus says Yahweh, any man of the house of Israel who will conceive his devices in his heart, and will set the punishment of his iniquity before his face, and will come to the prophet, I, Yahweh, will answer him according to the things in which his mind is entangled. Think about what Ezekiel's saying. Think about what the Father is saying to Ezekiel. That he should turn aside the house of Israel according to their hearts, that are estranged from me in their thoughts. Therefore I say to the house of Israel, Thus says Yahweh Elohim, be converted and turn from your evil practices, wickedness, and from all of your sins, lawlessness, and turn your faces back again. For any man of the house of Israel, or any man of the house of Israel, or the stranger that sojourns in Israel, who separates himself from me and conceives his imaginations in his heart, and set before his face the punishment of iniquity, and come to the prophet to inquire of him concerning me, I, Yahweh, will answer him according to the things wherein he is entangled. He is telling Ezekiel, and Ezekiel is telling them, if you guys are allowing yourselves to be blinded and allowing yourselves to have a delusion, and you're inviting this delusion into your home and into your mind, And then you're saying, oh, well, this and this and this and that, and here we go. Well, if you come to me and you go to the Father, you go to the prophet and you ask the Father, he's going to answer you according to the things which is entangled in your mind. Oh no, I'm sick. Oh, I'm sick. I'm sick. Oh, I'm so sick. Oh, I can't move my legs. I'm so sick. Oh, I'm so sick. Then I go to the doctor. The doctor's going to look at me and go, "Yep, you're really sick. You should probably go home and lay down. You're really sick." That's what he's saying. If you want to convince yourself of these delusions and you want to do these things and you conceive this in your heart and you said, "Oh, I know this is it." Well, then when you go ask the Father, "Yep, you're right. You're sick." When in reality, you're not sick. But he's saying, hey, if that's the mindset you're going to have when you present yourself before the Father, you have already closed off his answer. You've already accepted another answer, and the Father's just going to answer you accordingly. He says, I will set my face against that man, and I will make him desolate and ruined, and will cut him off from the midst of my people, and you will know that I am Yahweh. And if a prophet would cause to err, or should I speak, or should speak, I, Yahweh, have caused that prophet to err. And I will stretch out my hand upon him, and will utterly destroy him from the midst of my people of Israel. And they will bear the iniquity according to the trespass of him that asks. And it will be like a manner of all prophets according to the trespass, that the house of Israel will no more go astray from me, that they may no more defile themselves with any other transgressions. So they'll be my people, I will be their Elohim, says Yahweh. And we see this play out. This is in 1 Kings chapter 22. He says, and he rested 3 years. There was no more war between Syria and Israel. And it came to pass in the third year that Jehoshaphat, king of Judah, went down to the king of Israel. And the king of Israel said to his servants, you know that Ramoth Gilead is ours, and we are slow to take it out of the hand of the king of Assyria. And the king of Israel said to Jehoshaphat, will you go with us to Ramoth Gilead to battle? And Jehoshaphat said, as I am, so are you. Also, as my people, so is your people, and my horses are your horses. So Jehoshaphat's like, hey, if you're going to battle, I'm going to battle. If we're going to war, we're with you, right? That's what he's saying. We're with you. We are one. And Jehoshaphat, king of Judah, says to the king of Israel, inquire, I pray of you, please, go to Yahweh today. And the king of Israel gathers all the prophets together, about 400 men. And the king said to them, will I go up to Ramoth Gilead to battle, or shall I forbear? Listen, Ezekiel said, a man that has already convinced himself of something that will not listen to reason, when he presents it to the Father, yep, exactly, you're sick, man. Yeah, you're super sick. So, okay, go home and be sick. Yep. Remember that. That's what Ezekiel says. What did the king of Israel say in this moment? We know that Ramoth Gilead is ours. We already know this. We are just slow to take it from the king of Assyria. Oh, so he knows that this is his land and he is right, and that somehow the Father will just give it over to him. But yet, Jehoshaphat, the king of Judah, is like, hey, we're one, but like definitely go pray unto the Father and ask. So he gets all the prophets together and he says, should I go to battle or should I forbear? And they say, go up, and Yahweh will surely give it into the hands of the king. Remember, in Ezekiel, the Father says, and if a prophet should cause to err or should speak, I, Yahweh, have caused that prophet to speak in error. So here in Kings 22, the 400 prophets that are gathered say, go up, and Yahweh will surely give it into the hands of the king. Why didn't Jehoshaphat? And listen, guys, if you know history, You know that Israel has taken over Samaria. They have made a new temple. We know that the king of Judah resides in Jerusalem, where the temple is at, where sacrifices will be done, all these things. So, why would Jehoshaphat tell him to ask? Why would he not just ask? Is a big question. But that's a side note. But these prophets say, go ahead and do it. Yah will surely give it unto the hands of the king. 7. And Jehoshaphat, the king of, said to the king of Israel, is there not here a prophet of Yahweh, that we may inquire of Yahweh by him? So now we have the king of Israel going to his 400 prophets and them saying yes. His prophets. Jehoshaphat says, pray unto Yahweh, ask the Father. And the king of Israel gathers all prophets together, about 400 men. And Jehoshaphat's response is what? Is there not a prophet of the Most High? So then were these 400 men gathered not prophets of the Most High? Interesting question. I don't think they were. Jehoshaphat recognizes, says, is there not a prophet of Yahweh, that we may inquire of Yahweh by him? And the king of Israel said to Jehoshaphat, there is one man, meaning there is one prophet of Yahweh. Oh, imagine that. So the 400 men were not prophets of the Father. There is one man here for us to inquire of Yahweh by. There was one prophet of the Most High. Think about that. People go, oh, yeah, those 400 men were not prophets of the Most High. He says, and the king of Israel said to Jehoshaphat, there is one man here for us to inquire of Yahweh, but I hate him, for he does not speak good of me, but only evil. Machias, son of Jimla, and Jehoshaphat, the king of Judah, said, let not the king say so. Think about that. Ezekiel says, if a man is already convinced in his ways and conceived in his heart that this is what it is, when he acquires of me, I will just tell him, yeah, you're sick, man. Sounds good, bud. But he says, okay, let's go inquire of the Father. Okay, here's 400 men. They said that the Father will give it to me. Jehoshaphat, but is there not one that we can inquire of Yahweh? And he says, yeah, there is, but I hate him. He never speaks good of me, only evil. Man. Anyways, all right. 9. And the king of Israel called a eunuch and said, bring here quickly Machias, son of Jimla. And the king of Israel and Jehoshaphat, king of Judah, sat, each on his throne, armed in the gates of Samaria, because they're in the kingdom of Israel, and Israel has gone north to Samaria and created its own temple. And all the prophets prophesied before them, and Zedekias, son of Canaan, made for himself iron horns, and said, thus says Yahweh, with these you will push Syria until it be consumed. And all the prophets prophesied in like manner, saying, go up to Rimmioth Galad, and the thing will prosper, and Yahweh will deliver it and the king of Syria into your hands. And the messenger that went to call Machias spoke to him, saying, behold now, all the prophets speak with one mouth good concerning the king. Now let your words be like the words of them, and speak good things. Let your word, he finds, he's like, okay, dude, all 400 guys are saying good. When you get over there, you better speak good things of the king. But like Paul said, like Peter said, are we trying to be approved by men or by the Father? Are we trying to live a life where our words and our actions are justifiable to him or to them? So he tells Micaiah, man, when we go, just speak good things. 14. And Micaiah says, as Yahweh lives, whatever the Father will say to me, that I will speak. He's not worried about his own life. He's not worried about offending the king. He's not worried about upsetting a council. He's not worried about going against the other prophets. He's only worried about, I will say what the Father says to me, that I will speak. If the Father tells me to say good things, I'll say good things. If he tells me to say bad things, I'll say. If he tells me to say anything, I will say whatever it is he tells me to say. And then he came to the king, and the king said to him, Micaiah, will I go up to Ramoth Gilead to battle, or should I not? And he said, go up, and Yahweh will deliver it into the hands of the king. And the king said to him, how often will I adjourn you, that you speak to me truth in the name of Yahweh? And he said, not so. I saw all Israel scattered on the mountains as a flock without a shepherd. And Yahweh said, is not Elohim master of these? Let each one return to his home in peace. And the king of Israel said to Jehoshaphat, king of Judah, did I not say that this man does not prophesy good unto me? For he speaks nothing but evil. So remember, Ezekiel said, if that prophet speaks in error, I cause him. And look at exactly what happened. He said, oh, Micaiah, should I go and fight? And he says, oh, yeah, go. I don't know how he said it, but he might have said it with a little bit of, yeah, go, and he will deliver it into the hand. However he said it, and in whichever manner he said it, the king says, how do I know that you're telling me the truth? That's what he said. How do I know that you're telling me the truth and that's actually what the Father said? And he said, I'm just telling you what you want to hear. Your messenger came and said, only speak good things. So here I am speaking good things. Sure, go up ahead. But he says, not so, for I saw Israel scattered on the mountains as a flock without a shepherd. He doesn't say Judah. He says, I saw Israel with no shepherd, meaning that king is dead. That's what he's saying. And then all of these people returning, right? He's saying, is not Elohim the master, the Adonai of all of these? Just let everybody go home. Do not go to war. That's what he says. Let each one return to his home in peace. So now Micaiah is like, no, I see you're dead. I see Israel scattered. Let everybody go home in peace. And the king looks at Jehoshaphat and he says, what did I tell you? What did I tell you? This guy never says nothing good to me. He only speaks evil. He just said, I'm going to die. Right? 19. And Micaiah says, not so. It is not I. I didn't say these things. Right? He looks at Jehoshaphat and points and says, dude, look, this guy never said anything good. And Micaiah's like, I didn't say that. The Father said that. He says, hear the word of Yahweh. It is not so. I saw the Elohim of Israel sitting on his throne, and all the hosts of heaven stood about him on his right hand and his left. And Yahweh said, who will deceive Ahab? Now you know which king I'm speaking of. The king of Israel, that he may go up and fall in Ramoth Gilead. And one spoke one way, and another spoke another way. And there came forth a spirit, and stood before Yahweh, and said, I will deceive him a delusion. And Yahweh said to him, whereby? And he said, I will go forth and I'll be a false spirit. I will be a lying spirit in the mouth of all his prophets. Oh, so whose prophets were they? They were Ahab's prophets, not the father's. I will be a lying spirit in the mouth of all of his prophets. And he said, you will deceive him. Delusion sent upon by the Father. Yes. And will prevail. Go forth and do. Now behold, Yahweh has put a lying spirit in the mouth of all of these your prophets, and Yahweh has spoken evil against you. So, Micaiah, right? He's like, guys, I didn't say these things. I didn't say that Israel will be scattered and the king will be dead. The Father told me that. And you know what else I saw? I saw this. And Micaiah was allowed to see this divine council taking place, where the Father is consulting. What should we do so that King Ahab will go up and die in Ramoth Gilead? And one of them says, I'll be a lying spirit, go into his prophets. I will speak for him to go forth. So Micaiah tells Ahab and Jehoshaphat exactly what was just said and what he saw. And Sedechias, the son of Canaan, comes near and hits Micaiah on the cheek and said, what sort of spirit of Yahweh has spoken in you? And Micaiah said, behold, you will see in that day, and when you will go into an innermost chamber and hide yourself there. And the king of Israel said, take Micaiah and convey him in any way to Samir, the keeper of the city, and tell Joash, the king's son, to put his fellow in prison, and to feed him with bread of affliction and water of affliction until I return. Meaning that now he only has this minimal amount of water and minimal amount of bread needed to live. So he's not going to die, but he's going to be basically starving until I return in peace. And Micaiah says, if you return at all in peace, Yahweh has not spoken by me. That's a pretty confident thing to say, right? If you come home at all, then I'm a false prophet. So the king of Israel went up, and Jehoshaphat, king of Judah, to Ramoth Gilead. And the king of Israel said to Jehoshaphat of Judah, I will disguise myself, and I will enter into battle. You put on my raiment. So the king of Israel disguised himself and went into battle. And the king of Syria had charged the 32 captains of his chariots, saying, fight, not against small or great, but against the king of Israel only. And it came to pass, when the captains of the chariots saw Jehoshaphat, king of Judah, they said, this seems to be the king of Israel. They compassed him, about to fight against him, and Jehoshaphat cried out. And it came to pass, when the captains in the chariots saw this was not the king of Israel, they returned from him. And one drew a bow with good aim, and smote the king of Israel between the lungs and the breastplate. And he said to his charioteer, turn your hands, and carry me away out of battle, for I am wounded. And the war was turned in that day, and the king was standing on the chariot against Syria from morning till evening. And he shed the blood out of his wound into the bottom of the chariot, and died at even. And the blood ran out of the wound into the bottom of the chariot. And the herald of the army stood at sunset, saying, let every man go to his own city and his own land, for the king is dead. They got scattered to the mountains as a people of no shepherd, because their king is dead. And they came into Samaria, and they buried the king in Samaria. And they washed the chariot at the fountain of Samaria, and the swine and the dogs licked up the blood. And the harlots washed themselves in the blood, according to the word of Yahweh which he spoke. And the rest of the acts of Ahab, and all that he did, and the ivory house which he built, and all the cities which he built, behold, are not these written in the books of the chronicles of the kings of Israel? And Ahab slept with his fathers, and Uchaz, his son, reigned in his stead. So I know that was a little off the path, but that is a perfect example of the Father sending a delusion upon the people. And that's a perfect example of what Ezekiel 14 speaking about. Hey, if you guys have set in your mind that this is the way and this, there's no reasoning with you, well, then you're just going to get the answer you're looking for. I'm going to give you the answer you're looking for, and I'm going to cause this answer to be given unto you. Machias warns him. He warns him and says, guys, right? Remember, all the prophets that are not prophets of the Father, they're Achab's prophets, come and say, oh, yeah, Yahweh will give it surely into your hands. And when they finally send that messenger over to Machias, what does he say? He says, the messenger in 13 went and called Machias and spoke for him, saying, behold now, all the prophets speak with one mouth good things. Can you just say good things too? Can your words be like their words? And what does Machias say? As the Father lives, whatever Yahweh says to me, I will speak. He goes down there and he says, oh, go ahead, Machias. Should I go and take Ramoth Gilead, or shall I forbear? And he says, oh, for surely go ahead. He'll deliver it into the hand of the king. And what does the king say? How do I know you're telling me the truth, that this is truly what the Father says? And he says, oh, not so. All of Israel scattered. You have no flock, or there's a flock with no shepherd, right? Everyone's going back to their house. And Jehoshaphat and Ahab are standing there, and Ahab says, didn't I tell you this man says nothing good to me? And Machias answered and says, this is not what I'm saying. It is not me that said these things. This is what the Father said. And he tells them of this counsel he sees. And here there literally says, a spirit presents itself before the Father and says, I will be a lying spirit and go into the mouth of his prophets. And the Father said, yep, this thing in which you say is good. Go forth and do it. And Zedekiah goes up and smacks Machias. He hits him, smotes him in the cheek, and says, what kind of spirit of Yahweh are you speaking through? And he says, oh, don't worry about it. And Ahab tells Joash, says, hey, go take this to Joash and tell him to bind him up, put him in prison, and give him the barely any food and barely any water. And what does Machias say? If you return it all in peace, then the Father's not spoken through me. And sure enough, how did he return? In a chariot dead, his blood being washed out and licked up by the swine and the dogs, and the harlots washed themselves in it. That's a separate prophecy that you'll see. But here we can clearly see that there is a delusion that the Father sends out among the people. So, 2 Thessalonians, we're back now, chapter 2. He says, 13, we'll go a little bit longer, and then I guess we'll pause and we'll wrap up Thessalonians after. He says, 13, but we ought to give thanks to Elohim always for you, brothers and beloved by the Master, because Elohim from the beginning chose you to be saved and set apartness of spirit and belief in the truth, unto which he called you by our good news, for the obtaining of the esteem of our Master Yeshua Messiah. So then, brothers, stand fast and hold the traditions which you were taught, whether by word or by our letter. The traditions which you were taught by word or by letter. What traditions do you think he's talking about? 16. And our Master Yeshua Messiah himself, and our Elohim and Father, who has loved us and given us everlasting encouragement and good expectation through favor. Encourage your hearts and establish you in every good word and work. So, stand fast and hold to the traditions that were taught by the word, by the letter, by our Master, by our Father. What traditions do you think Paul is promoting here? He says, pray for the rest, brothers. Pray for us. so that the word of Yahweh spreads rapidly to be praised, as also with you, that we might be delivered from unreasonable and wicked men. For from, or for not all have belief, that we might be delivered from unreasonable and wicked men, for not all have belief. But the master is trustworthy, who will establish you and guard you from the wicked one. And we trust in the master as to you, both that you do and will do what we command. Sorry. And the master directs your hearts into the love of Elohim and into the endurance for the Messiah. But we command you, brothers, in the name of our Master Yeshua Messiah, that you withdraw from every brother who walks disorderly and not according to the tradition which you received from us. Let me just read that again. We command you, brothers. Who's the we? Silas, Paul, Timothy, who wrote this letter. In the name of the Master, that you withdraw from everyone who walks disorderly and not according to tradition which you received from us. What tradition do you think he's talking about that he received from Paul? So, Paul hears, remember, Paul is on the road to Damascus, is blinded by the master 3 days. His eyes are healed by Ananias. Where does Paul go? It says he does not consult with flesh and blood, but he goes to Arabia, to Mount Sinai, to consult in the Spirit, to ask the Father, to get guidance from the Father. That's where Paul goes. And then after that, he returns finally to Jerusalem 3 years later. And who does he get taught by? Peter and James. So, where do you think that Paul would have gotten this idea that he says in verse 3, the master is trustworthy, who will establish you and guard you from the wicked one? This is the last thing we're going to read, and then we're going to wrap it up. This is a good ending note. And after we read this, I would like you to go read it alone in a quiet place. I want you to flip to John chapter 17. Now, what I did in the letters of Paul was anytime it was the Father, it was blue, and anytime it was the Son, it was the red. And I've also done this here in John 17. So maybe this is something that you can do too, just to distinguish how connected they are and how much Yeshua talks about his Father and leans on his Father, and how much Yeshua says that his Father leans on him. Think about that. John 17. Just context. This is the prayer that Yeshua says to his disciples before he goes to the Garden of Gethsemane and is captured. This is right before he's captured. Right after this, right after these words, Yeshua walks out with Peter, James, and John. And right after that, he prays, he gains strength. Judas leads the guards to Yeshua, and he is captured. This is the last prayer he tells his disciples, and pay attention to what's being said here. It says, and Yeshua said these words, and lifted up his eyes to the heavens and said, Father, the hour has come, esteem your Son, so that your Son might also esteem you, as you have given him authority over all flesh, and that he should give everlasting life to all whom you have given him. And this is everlasting life, that they should know you, the only true Elohim, and Yeshua Messiah, whom you've sent. I have esteemed you on the earth, having accomplished the work that you've given me that I should do. And now esteem me with yourself, Father, and the esteem which I had with you before the world was. And I revealed your name to the men whom you gave me out of the world. They were yours, and you gave them to me. And I have guarded your word. Now they have come to know that all you have given me is from you, which the word, because the words which you gave me, I have given to them. And they have received them and have truly known that I have come from you, and that they believe that you sent me. I pray for them. I do not pray for the world. What? I pray for them. I do not pray for the world, but for those whom you have given me, for they are yours. And all mine are yours, and yours are mine, and I have been esteemed in them. And I no more, I am no more in the world, but these are in the world, and I come to you, set apart Father, and guard them in your name, which you've given me. We are going to come back to this, but I want you to highlight this that I have underlined, or underline it, whatever. I have come to you, set apart Father, guard them in your name, which you've given to me. Guard them in your name, the name that you gave to me. Think about that. Think about the implication. Think about the repercussions of that right there. Think about what that could mean. So that they might be one as we are. And when I was with them in the world, listen, he's in the world with them as he's speaking this. He's standing there with his disciples. And he says, when I was with them in the world, I was guarding them in your name, which you have given me. And I watched over them, and not one of them perished, except the son of destruction, that the scripture might be fulfilled. Think about what he just said there. And think about when Yeshua tells the Pharisees and scribes, your father Abraham was joyous to see my day. And they said, you're only about 50. How in the world could you have seen Abraham? Oh. 13. And now I come to you, and I speak these words in the world, so that they have my joy complete in them. I have given them your word, and the world hated them because they are not of the world, as I am not of the world. I do not pray that you should take them out of the world, but that you should keep them from the wicked one. Sounds kind of familiar, right? They are not of this world, and I am not of this world. Set them apart in your truth. Your word is truth. As you sent me into the world, I also sent them into the world. And for them I set myself apart, so that they too might be set apart in truth. Paul said, imitate the Messiah. Well, he's saying, I set myself apart so that they too could be set apart, so they could imitate me. 20, and I do not pray for these alone, but for also those believing in me through their word. That is literally us. 20 is all of us sitting right here and everybody else who's believing. That right there, Yeshua said he is praying for us individually. I do not pray for these men alone, these people standing with me, but also those in believing me through their word. Well, we use the words of John, Mark, Matthew, Luke, Paul, Peter, James, Ezekiel, Abraham, Noah, Moses, Adam. We use those words, and we believe in the Son because of those words. And right here in John 17, verse 20, Yeshua says he's praying for us. 21. So that they, us, me and you, will be one. As you, Father, are in me and I in you, so that they too will be one in us, so that the world might believe that you've sent me, and that the esteem which you gave me I have given to them, so that they might be as one as we are one, I in them and you in me, so that they might be perfected into one, so that the world knows that you have sent me and have loved them as you've loved me. Father, I desire that those whom you have given me will be with me where I am, so that they see my esteem which you have given me, because you loved me before the foundations of the world. O righteous Father, indeed, the world did not know you, but I knew you. And all these that know you sent me. And these that you that knew you sent me. And I have made your name known to them, and I will make it known, so that the love with which you loved me might be in them and I in them. The Messiah is saying a lot here. This is going to take you 5 or 6 or 7 or 20 reads just to gather up everything that Yeshua is saying in here. But after, we're going to go into just a little bit of a sidebar next study about 11 through 12. I'm going to read it one more time. He says, but I am no more in the world, but these are in the world. And I should come to you, set apart Father. Guard them in your name, which you gave to me, so that they might be one as we are. And when I was with them in the world, I was guarding them in your name, which you've given to me. I watched over them, and not one of them perished except the son of destruction, that the scripture might be fulfilled. He is in the world with them when he says these things. And verse 12 is a past tense. And if we pair this with the words of John, chapter 1, he was in the world, he was of the world, and he came to the world of his own, but his own did not accept him. And then he came in the flesh, tabernacled among them. So, here we have scriptural backing of Yeshua saying that the Father has placed his name upon him, and that through the power of having that name, he has guarded them and watched over them and protected them. So, we'll just pause here because, oh, I guess we won't. We'll finish up. Sorry, guys. I know it's kind of long. We have a couple more slides left. It's just a long one. All right. 7. For you yourselves know how you ought to imitate us. For we were not disorderly among you, nor did we eat anyone's bread without paying for it, but worked with labor and toil by night and day in order to not burden any of you, not because we do not have authority, but to make ourselves an example for you to imitate us. For even when we were with you, we commanded you this: if anyone does not wish to work, neither let him not eat. For we hear some among you are walking disorderly and not working at all, but are busybodies. But we command and urge such through our Master Yeshua: settle down, work, and eat of their own bread. And you, brothers, do not grow weary in doing good. Listen, he's saying, guys, there's moochers out there. There's freeloaders out there who have no intention of doing anything good. They have no intention. They're just here. They're little leeches, right? And there's nothing wrong. We should be helping and assisting all of those. But we also need to pay attention to just leeches that have no gain or no benefit or anything like that. They're just here to gain, not Yeshua, but physical. 14. And if anyone does not obey our word in this letter, note that one, and do not keep company with him, so that he is put to shame. However, do not regard him as an enemy, but admonish him as a brother. So he's saying, hey, all this stuff we talked about, if these people don't want to obey, they don't want to listen to it, that's fine. But don't hang out with them. Don't keep coming. Don't treat him as an enemy, as a bad guy. Treat them as your brother, but don't acknowledge them in the means of, right? Yeah, I'll help you. I'll do what, love them, but we don't have to be with them, right? 16, the master of peace himself give you peace always in every way. The master be with you all. The greeting of Saul, Shaul, Paul, with my own hand, which is a sign in every letter. Thus I write. The favor of our master Yeshua Messiah be with you all. Amen. Okay. Paul, he says, do not keep company with them. Okay. In 1 Corinthians, in the letter to Corinthians, he says, Elohim judges those who are outside and put away the wicked one from among you. 2 Timothy, in the letter to Timothy, he says, for men will be lovers of self, lovers of money, boasters, proud, blasphemers, disobedient to parents, thankfulness, wrongdoers, unloving, unforgiving, slanderers, without self-control, fierce, hatred of good, betrayers, reckless, puffed up, lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of Elohim, having a form of reverence but denying its power. Turn away from these. And in his letter to the Romans, he says, now I call upon you, brothers, watch out for those who cause divisions and stumbling contrary to the teaching which you have learned. Turn away from them. For such ones do not serve our Master Yeshua Messiah, but their own stomach, and by smooth words and flattery speech they deceive the hearts of the innocent. So it's not just in this, but he's saying in his other letters, get away from these people. So, wrapping it up, Paul is speaking about a people who do not know the Torah, do not know what it speaks of, do not care for sound teaching, do not know the Messiah, do not know the meaning of truth, do not have the Messiah, do not have the Father, do not have the Spirit, want to cause division and separation, want the praise of men and recognition of other humans, those who want to be looked at as an authority, those who have no love for the Father or the Son. But these men command and they teach with an authority because of a birthright, self-proclaimed righteousness, or the puffed up approval of other men. Oh yeah, that guy's a great teacher of the word. But this is the people who Paul's speaking of. So I ask again, right, as you wrap up 3 letters of Paul, is Paul preaching another God? Is he preaching about another God? Is he teaching about another creator? Is Paul preaching another gospel? Is Paul preaching another Messiah? And is Paul really telling us to be disobedient? And that's it. I know it was a little long, but that is it. That is the end of the Thessalonians letters to the peoples. Is there any questions or comments? I think the big thing to walk away from here, right? And a lot of people pull away from Second Thessalonians, a lot of different things. I think a big part is, who do you serve? We can't serve 2 masters, right? So who's our master? Paul refers to him, Yeshua, as our master. And if we're serving the Son, then we are side by side. We are friends, and then ultimately we are serving the Father. Because the Son serves the Father, so ultimately we're serving the Father. So when Paul's talking to these people, he's talking about, who are we going to serve? Who are we going to please? Who are we going to make happy? Who are we going to put our trust and our hope and our time and attention and our focus on? All right, I'm going to end the recording. Thanks for hanging on.